recap from last week. Jacob, we were talking about Jacob, Leah, and Rachel. So Jacob was tricked into marrying Leah and by Laban because he said the firstborn child must be married first. But then he actually really loved Rachel, so he wanted to marry her. So he was given Rachel after a week and then had to work another 7 years for Laban, for a total of 14 years at this time. Leah continued to hope that her children that she had with Jacob would make him love her. The painter's name. When I was talking last week about the painter that paints with dots, it's Georges Seurat. It's French, so that's my best French accent. But he's the one that paints with dots. And as we said, even though things to us might look messy, because of God's vantage point, like if we're looking at one of the dots on this guy's painting, when we zoom out, you can see the whole picture. So we might see an ugly little dot where God sees the whole picture. Rachel and Leah both gave their servants to Jacob as wives. And I did look up their lineage, and from what I found, Bilhah and Zilpah, the two servants of Leah and Rachel, are the daughters of Laban and his second wife. So they're half sisters of Leah and Rachel.
Interesting.
Yeah, I found that very interesting. And then, as we've been saying, and I believe we'll continue to say, well, there's Rachel. As we continue to say, God uses broken people. Not only does he use broken people, but that's his choice. He has all of humanity to choose, and he selects these people that we would consider broken people. And he turns it all around. So we are now in chapter 30. We'll start at verse 18. So this is Leah again, said, God has given me I'm going to read the NLT. She gave birth to another son. She named him Issachar, for she said, God has rewarded me for giving my servant to my husband as a wife. So this was actually her servant's, this is Leah's servant, which was not Bilhah, it was Zilpah. So this was Zilpah's child, but Leah took the child as her own for Jacob and named him herself. And his name means reward. Then Leah became pregnant again and gave birth to a sixth son for Jacob. She named him Zebulun, for she said, God has given me a good reward. Now my husband will treat me with respect, for I have given him 6 sons. And Zebulun, his name means honor. So I want to pause and just, as we've been doing, thinking about how Leah must have felt, just even initially, like recognizing that Jacob wanted her sister as a wife, not her, and then going along with her father's plan to be sneaky on the day of what was supposed to be Jacob and Rachel's wedding, and to be snuck in to consummate this marriage, and knowing that she wasn't the one that he wanted. And now she just keeps having, now she's had 6 children, well, counting the ones that she had with her handmaid, that she keeps having these children wanting to be accepted, wanting to be part of this family, and it just seems like it's not happening. It doesn't say that it's not happening, but because she keeps expressing this feeling of not being loved, so it's it's heartbreaking, really, because this girl is just doing what her father told her to do, which is what women did then. And all she wants to do is be loved. So that must be incredibly painful.
Sure.
So later she, Leah, gave birth to a daughter and named her Dinah. Then God remembered, and Dinah means judgment. Then God remembered Rachel's plight and answered her prayers by enabling her to have children. So up to this point, Rachel did not have any children herself. She had her Bilhah, her servant and half-sister, have Jacob's children. But now God remembers her and opens her womb. She became pregnant and gave birth to a son. God has removed my disgrace, she said, and she named him Joseph. For she said, may the Lord add yet another son to my family. And Joseph means, may he add. Soon after Rachel gave birth to Joseph, Jacob said to Laban, please release me so I can go home to my own country. Let me take my wives and children that I've earned, for I've earned them by serving you, and let me be on my way. You certainly know how hard I've worked for you. So Laban says, please listen to me. I have become wealthy, for the Lord has blessed me because of you. That happened with when Abraham was with Pharaoh too. He was blessed because Abraham was there. So when God's people are in a certain place, it blesses everyone around them. So Jacob replied, you know how hard I've worked for you and how your flocks and herds have grown under my care. You had little indeed before I came, but your wealth has increased enormously. The Lord has blessed you through everything I've done. But now, what about me? When can I start providing for my own family? What wages do you want? Laban asked again. Jacob replied, don't give me anything. Just do this one thing, and I'll continue to tend and watch over your flocks. Let me inspect your flocks today and remove all the sheep and goats that are speckled or spotted, along with the black sheep. Give those to me as my wages. In the future, when you check on the animals you have given me as wages, you'll see that I have been honest. If you find in my flock any goats without speckles or spots, or any sheep that are not black, you will know that I've stolen them for you. Because the sheep that are, or the sheep and the goats that are unblemished are able to be offered as sacrifice. So they're viewed higher, they're more expensive. So he's saying, I'll take the lesser of your flock, but wait to see what he does. All right, Laban replied, it will be as you say. But that very day, Laban went out and removed the male goats that were streaked and spotted, all the female goats that were speckled and spotted or had white patches, and all the black sheep. He placed them in the care of his own sons. So again, Laban's a tricky guy. He tricked Jacob before with Leah, and now he's trying to trick him again. So he gave them to his own sons, who took them a 3 days' journey from where Jacob was. Meanwhile, Jacob stayed and cared for the rest of Laban's flock. Then Jacob took some fresh branches from poplar, almond, and plane trees and peeled off strips of bark, making white streaks on them. Then he placed these peeled branches in the watering troughs where the flocks came to drink, for that was where they mated. And when they mated in front of the white streaked branches, they gave birth to young that were streaked, speckled, and spotted. So that's a whole interesting thing. That's another one of those layers of scripture that we're not getting into in a woman's Bible study, because that's like a mystery Bible study. But anyways, it's interesting that he's doing this. It doesn't say that he even knows that Laban took away the other speckled and spotted and black sheep. But now he's doing a thing so that when these sheep breed, they'll be speckled and spotted. So when they mated in front of they gave birth to young that were streaked, speckled, and spotted. Jacob separated these lambs from Laban's flock and at mating time, he turned the flock to face Laban's animals that were streaked or spotted. This is how he built his own flock instead of increasing Laban's. Whenever the stronger females were ready to mate, Jacob would place the peeled branches in the watering troughs in front of them. Then they would mate in front of the branches. But he didn't do this to win the weaker ones. So the weaker lambs belonged to Laban, and the stronger ones were Jacob's. As a result, Jacob became very wealthy with large flocks of sheep and goats, female and male servants, and many camels and donkeys. So he would watch to see which of the flock was the stronger, and then he would put the branches down so that they would have speckled and spotted young, and then when the weak ones came, he would remove those branches, and then they would mate, and then those would be Laban's animals that were the weaker ones. So verse 31. But Jacob soon learned that Laban's sons were grumbling about him. Jacob has robbed our father of everything, they said. He has gained all his wealth at our father's expense, which that's nonsense. But again, Laban probably had favor for Jacob, maybe even over his own sons, because of Jacob carried the glory of God with him. So Jacob began to notice a change in Laban's attitude towards him. Then the Lord said to Jacob, "Return to the land of your father and grandfather and to your relatives there, and I will be with you." So Jacob called Rachel and Leah out to the field where he was watching his flock. He said to them, "I have noticed that your father's attitude towards me has changed, but the God of my father has been with me. You know how hard I have worked for your father." And that's another thing. Like if his sons notice that he's worked many years for hand in marriage, and that's it. And it doesn't say how hard his sons worked, but one could imagine. "But he has cheated me, changed my wages 10 times. So he changed his wages 10 times while he was working for him. So I guess he was being paid maybe because after this it says that he worked for him for a total of 20 years. But God has not allowed him to do me any harm. For if he said, 'The speckled animals will be your wages,' the whole flock began to produce speckled young. And when he changed his mind and said, 'The striped animals will be your wages,' then the whole flock produced striped young. In this way, God has taken your father's animals and given them to me. One time during the mating season, I had a dream and saw that the male goats mating with the females were streaked, speckled, and spotted. Then in my dream, the angel of God said to me, 'Jacob.' And I replied, 'Yes, here I am.' The angel said, 'Look up, and you will see that only the streaked, speckled, and spotted males are mating with the females of your flock, for I have seen how Laban has treated you.'" That's how God does. He knows our struggles. He knows when people are working against us in wicked ways, and he says, "Vengeance is mine." So God repays according to what is good and true and honorable. So Jacob goes on to say, this is what God said to him: "I am the God who appeared to you at Bethel and placed the place where you anointed the pillar of stone and made your vow to me. Now get ready and leave this country and return to the land of your birth." Rachel and Leah responded, "That's fine with us. We won't inherit any of our father's wealth anyways. He has reduced our rights to those of foreign women, and after he sold us, he wasted the money you paid him for us." So I'm not quite sure about all of that. I'm not, because I don't remember anything being said about Jacob paying for Leah and Rachel other than serving him. So maybe that's what they're speaking of, the money that was made as Jacob was serving him. A dowry usually was given to the husband to take the women. So I don't know if that happened here. And also it just mentioned that he's speaking with Rachel and Leah, not the other two women who are the mother of his children. just for the hierarchy's sake of the family. And the women didn't inherit anything, so they don't really care, and it seems like their brothers are not upstanding gentlemen, so they're ready to go with Jacob. So all the wealth God has given you from our father legally belongs to us and our children. So go ahead and do whatever God has told you. So Jacob put his wives and children on camels, and he drove all his livestock in front of him. He packed all the belongings he had acquired in Padan Aram and set out to the land of Canaan, where his father Isaac lived. At the time they left, Laban was some distance away shearing his sheep, probably his speckled sheep, and Rachel stole her father's household idols and took them with her. Now the idols, I looked it up, and they might be used for divination, because remembering that Laban was not following the Almighty God. He was still under the idolatry of the people of that land. So the idols may be used for divination to figure out what to do in the future. She was also, there's also the possibility that she was taking those idols to use them to keep Laban from finding them, or to secure the family estate, because the idols were most likely made out of precious metals and stones. So she took them. Jacob outwitted Laban the Aramean, for they set out secretly and never told Laban they were leaving. So Jacob took all his possessions with him and crossed the Euphrates River, heading for the hill country of Gilead. 3 days later, Laban was told that Jacob had fled. So he gathered a group of his relatives and set out in hot pursuit. He caught up with Jacob 7 days later in the hill country of Gilead. But the previous night, God had appeared to Laban the Aramean in a dream and told him, "I'm warning you, leave Jacob alone." Laban caught up with Jacob, and he was camped in the hill country of Gilead, and he set his camp not far from Jacob. "What do you mean by deceiving me like this?" Laban demanded. "How dare you drag my daughters away like prisoners of war? Why did you slip away secretly? Why did you deceive me? And why didn't you say you wanted to leave? I would have given you a farewell feast with singing and music accompanied by tambourines and harps. Why didn't you let me kiss my daughters and grandchildren and tell them goodbye? You have acted foolishly. I could destroy you, but the God of your father appeared to me last night and warned me, leave Jacob alone." So Jacob did say he wanted to leave. He said he wanted to go, and it's curious that it just keeps happening, that these deceitful men keep getting mad when other people deceive them. But they do. So Laban says, "I can understand your feeling that you must go and your intense longing for your father's home, but why have you stolen my gods?" And Jacob says, "I rushed away because I was afraid." Jacob answered, "I thought you would take your daughters from me by force. But as for your gods, see if you can find them and let the person who has taken them die. And if you find anything else that belongs to you, identify it before all these relatives of ours, and I will give it back." But Jacob did not know that Rachel had stolen the household items. So Laban went first into Jacob's tent, searched there, then into Leah's, and then into the tents of the 2 servant wives, but he found nothing. Finally, he went into Rachel's tent, but Rachel had taken the household items and hidden them in her camel's saddle, and now she was sitting on them. When Laban had thoroughly searched her tent without finding them, she said to her father, "Please, sir, forgive me if I don't get up for you. I'm having my monthly period." Again, these women who may or may not have been this way before get into an environment and now they're also lying. So she's lying about having the household idols. Verse 36, then Jacob became very angry and he challenged Laban. What is my crime? He demanded. What have I done wrong to make you chase after me as though I were a criminal? You have rummaged through everything I own. Now show me what you found that belongs to you. Set it out here in front of us before our relatives for all to see. Let them judge between us. So, again, thinking about the women, I'm sure that the gentlemen that were rummaging through all of these tents did not do it gently. I'm sure they were similar to when police come in looking for something, they just throw everything all around, and then it's going to be up to the women to put all of these things back in proper order. So verse 38, for 20 years I have been with you caring for your flocks, and all that time your sheep and goats never miscarried. In all those years I never used a single ram of yours for food. If any were attacked and killed by wild animals, I never showed you the carcass and asked you to reduce the count of your flock. No, I took the loss myself. You made me pay for every stolen animal, whether it was taken in broad daylight or in dark of night. So Jacob looks like maybe he's turning the corner, and he does have part of his heart that's honest and good, because it seems like he did a very good job of tending to the flock. And as I said, it was 6 years more than what was demanded of him for the two girls. Verse 40, I worked for you through the scorching heat of the day and through the cold of sleepless nights. Yes, for 20 years I slaved in your house. I worked for 14 years, earning your daughters, and then 6 more years for you and your flock. And you changed my wages 10 times. In fact, if the God of my father had not been on my side, the God of Abraham and the fearsome God of Isaac, you would have sent me away empty-handed. But God has seen your abuse and my hard work. That is why he appeared to you last night and rebuked you. So that's something to take into consideration as well for our own lives, that sometimes it doesn't seem like we get paid fairly for the amount of work that we do, but God sees and he rewards us. So just keeping that in mind as we all continue to do things and maybe feel unrecognized or not compensated properly. So 43, then Laban replied to Jacob, these women are my daughters, these children are my grandchildren, and these flocks are my flocks. In fact, everything you see is mine. But what can I do now about my daughters and their children? So come, let's make a covenant, you and I. It will be a witness to our covenant, or to our commitment. So Jacob took a stone and set it up as a monument. Then he told his family members, come gather stones. So they gathered stones and piled them in a heap. Then Jacob and Laban sat down beside a pile of stones to eat a covenant meal, as was the way of it. To commemorate the event, Laban called the place Jegar Sahadutha, which means witness pile in Aramaic, and Jacob called it Gilead, which means witness pile in Hebrew. Then Laban declared, this pile of stones will stand as a witness to remind us of the covenant we have made here today. This explains why it is called Gilead, witness pile. But it was also called Mizpah, which means watchtower. For Laban said, may the Lord keep watch between us to make sure that we keep this covenant when we are out of each other's sight. If you mistreat my daughters or if you marry other wives, God will see it even if no one else does. He is a witness to the covenant between us. See this pile of stones, Laban continued, and see this monument I've set between us. They stand between us as witnesses to our vows. As we will never pass this pile of stones and harm you, you must never pass these pile of stones to harm me. I call upon the God of our ancestors, the God of your grandfather Abraham, and the God of my grandfather Nahor, to serve as a judge between us. So even though he had household gods, he still recognized that that God, the Almighty God, was the God over his grandfather, which was Abraham's father, I believe. So Jacob took an oath before the fearsome God and of his father Isaac to respect the boundary. Then Jacob offered a sacrifice to the God there on the mountain and invited everyone to a covenant feast. After they had eaten, they spent the night on the mountain. Laban got up the next morning, kissed his grandchildren and his daughters, and blessed them, and returned home. All right, 32. As Jacob started on his way again, an angel of God came to meet him. When Jacob saw them, he exclaimed, "This is God's camp." So he named the place Mahanaim, which means two camps. Then Jacob sent messengers ahead to his brother Esau. So if we recall correctly, last time we saw Esau, he wanted to murder Jacob. So Jacob remembers this and acts accordingly. So Jacob was living in the region of Seir in the land of Edom. He told them, "Give this message to my master Esau. Humble greetings from your servant Jacob. Until now I have been living with Uncle Laban, and now I own cattle, donkey, flocks of sheep and goats, and many servants, both men and women. I have sent these messengers to inform my lord of my coming, hoping that you will be friendly to me." After delivering the message, the messengers returned to Jacob and reported, "We met your brother Esau, and he is already on his way to meet you with an army of 400 men. Jacob was terrified at the news. He divided his household along with the flocks and herds and camels into two groups. He thought, if Esau meets one group and attacks, perhaps the other group can escape. So again, this is another instance of God giving somebody a word and the man having the fear of man and not the fear of God. So he splits up his household. He thought, okay, then verse 9, then Jacob prayed, "O God of my grandfather Abraham and God of my father Isaac, O Lord, you told me, return to your land, to your relatives, and you promised me I will treat you kindly. I am not worthy of the unfailing love and faithfulness you have shown me, your servant. When I left home and crossed the Jordan River, I owned nothing except a walking stick. Now my whole household fills 2 large camps. O Lord, please rescue me from the hand of my brother Esau. I am afraid that he is coming to attack me along with my wives and children, but you promised me, surely I will treat you kindly." So I'm not going to read this because I want to get to the end of where I wanted to stop. But so he sends to Esau 200 female goats, 20 male goats, 200 ewes, 20 rams, 30 female camels with their young, 40 cows, 10 bulls, 2 female donkeys, and 10 male donkeys. So he sent this with some groups of people to try to appease Esau, and so he doesn't try to kill him. And Esau actually comes and accepts well, he actually doesn't want to accept the gifts. He comes and says to his brother that this is where he wrestles with God. Again, all right, I'll touch on this.
I have enough. He says, "I have enough," basically, later. Esau says, "I have enough, my brother."
Right. And
keep it to yourself.
I might just skip right over, pretty much over this, where Jacob wrestles with God. This is a common story where it says a man comes to Jacob and wrestles with him, and he says, "I won't let you go until you bless me." Some people say it's Jesus, but actually it says it's Peniel, which is another name for Uriel, the angel Uriel. So it wrestles with him, touches his hip and dislocates it, and then he walks with a limp for the rest of his life. And to this day, they still don't eat that part of the land, of the whatever they kill. They don't eat that part of the hip. So here's where in chapter 33, Jacob comes up, Esau comes up and says he's surprised at the bounty that his brother currently has, because, like, as he said, when he left, he just had a walking stick. So then comes Leah and Rachel and all of the children, and Esau's like, "Who are these people?" And Jacob says, these are your nephews and one niece, and my wives. So he tells him to give him the gift. He'd take this gift, and Esau says, no, thank you. And then he says, I insist. And Esau says, all right, if you insist. So they're able to repair their relationship. And verse 15, chapter 33, Esau says, all right, but at least let me assign some of my men to guide and protect you. Jacob responds, that's not necessary. And it's just interesting how he refers to him as master and my lord instead of how he was acting towards him before. So later, having traveled all the way from Padan Aram, Jacob arrived safely at the town of Shechem in the land of Canaan. There he set up camp outside of town. Jacob bought the plot of land where he camped from the family of Hamor, the father of Shechem, for 30 pieces of silver. And there he built an altar and named it El Elohi Israel, which means God, the God of Israel. So that's another thing. When he wrestled with the angel, he was given a new name at the end. And his name, he said he would no longer be called Jacob, the trickster, but he would be called Israel, which means one who wrestles with God. Because he said, you have wrestled with God and man and have come up worthy, that you've shown yourself worthy. So that's where we're going to stop today.